African politics and politicians. Well, today's story and news is one of a sad note. Former president of Zambia, Edgar Lungu, recently passed on, and may his soul rest in peace. He's a president that served the nation of Zambia for quite some time. And after being in service for his country and the people of Zambia, he fell sick. And for those of you that are new to this platform, we have done a video before on why African presidents fail to build infrastructure for hospitals, and why most of them, when they are sick, they have to be flown outside of their country because of lack of infrastructure. And in that video, I spoke about how the disregard for such infrastructures become detrimental when it hits home. And I will put the link in the description. You can watch it. But for the purpose of this video, apparently the president, who was the ex-president of Zambia, fell ill, and he was in need of medical treatment that he couldn't get in Zambia. So he had to be flown into South Africa. But obviously, as state president, whether ex or current, he's entitled to security, which he didn't have. He's entitled to benefits like vehicles and obviously diplomatic benefits, which he was stripped of. He flew into South Africa on an economy plane, had to go through checks and luggages and security like any other person. Literally, he was just reduced down to zero. Then on top of that, this is a person that is sick, in need of medical treatment, yet he had to go through that. And number three, he had to use an Uber. So there was no transportation arrangements made for him. The government of Zambia did not inform the South African government of their ex-president that was in need of medical treatment that was coming in the country. So he didn't come on a diplomatic kind of trip, in quote. So he had to use an Uber from the airport. Accommodation was never covered for. He had to sort that out himself. Now, on top of that, it has been discovered and proven that while he was in hospital, obviously the government is supposed to accord him medical benefits, which he didn't have. Very sad indeed. And if this is happening to an ex-president, you can literally just imagine what's happening with the citizens. So there's 100% disregard for that matter. So now, unfortunately, he met his demise in South Africa. He passed on. And guess what? The government now wants to give him a national hero's burial. A president that they were persecuting, a president that they never respected, a president that they had no regard of. They want to speak highly of him when he's late and gone. This I'm sharing not to poke fun or to look down, but I'm expressing all of these facts for you to learn how we as Africans need to do better, not just for presidents, but for even the average citizen. We have to have the future in mind. We have to start investing in infrastructure, So let us watch the news and hear as the lawyer of the family. So now it's a tug of war and a battle between the family and the government. The family wants him to be buried here in South Africa. They don't want him to be buried in Zambia. Imagine people fighting you when you are alive, and even in your death, they are still fighting you. The family had to use a lawyer to fight and appeal at the High Court in South Africa to obviously stop the government of Zambia from repatriating his body to Zambia for his burial. So you can just imagine. Let us watch and hear what the lawyer said.
The Pretoria High Court has halted the burial of Zambia's former president Edgar Lungu in South Africa. The Zambian Attorney General approaching the court to halt Lungu's burial through an interim interdict on Wednesday. The court's challenge was the latest move in a feud between the Zambian government and Lungu's family over his burial. The family wanted a private ceremony in South Africa rather than a full state funeral at home, where Lungu had a long-standing feud with his successor, President Hakainde Hichilema. The ruling comes as some family members attended a funeral service at the Cathedral of Christ the King in Hillbrow, Johannesburg today. Lungu died earlier this month at a medical center in Pretoria, where he had been receiving specialized treatment. And this is what the family had to say, especially after that court ruling.
The family has been consistent. He mattered to the family when he was president. He matters to the family now. And taking him back home, it so appears, will not give him a dignified burial. And the family only wants to give him a dignified burial, not one that's shrouded in mockery, that's shrouded in PR, that's shrouded in giving the international community a perception that he was properly treated, when in fact not. Decency requires that the government should come across and say, we are sorry we never treated him well. We are sorry we did wrong to him. Now that he's dead, how can we make amends? No one spoke for Edgar Lungu when he was alive. And now people want to pretend to speak for him when they were never there for him in his lifetime. And this time around, perhaps President Edgar Lungu has refused to go down to the soil without the truth being told. And now onwards, until his burial, the truth of Edgar Lungu shall be told, and we shall tell it in a very systematic way. In court, we shall tell the full story of Edgar Lungu, how he came into South Africa as a private citizen, how that the protocols that he was entitled to, or the entitlements of being given, being accorded to the embassy to treat him in this country, our Zambian embassy, how that he never got anything from them, how that he came on a commercial flight, flying economy, got to this place, walked through security clearance, walked through immigration like a normal person, waited for an Uber outside the airport. Is that the life of a former president? Certainly not. And this should not be, his death should not be used as a PR stunt by the government of the Republic of Zambia. That story we shall tell in court, and evidence shall be brought before the court that will exonerate President Edgar Lungu and his family.
All right, let's take this discussion further now. We speak to SABC News International Editor Sophie Mukwena, SABC News Senior Reporter Kenny Mapanga, and of course another Senior Reporter, Crisalda Lewis, for joining us on the story. Crisalda, you've had quite the eventful day, you and Sophie, out there tracking developments on the story while Kenny was in court. A very upset family, speaking about what the late former president would have been subjected to, despite what we hear from the Zambian government.
Well, clearly, Bongiwe, it has been the family's wishes that the former president of Zambia, Edgar Lungu, not be repatriated to Zambia. In actual fact, from the clip that you just heard from the family spokesperson, they're asking questions about why he should now all of a sudden be treated a particular way when they say he was not treated right when he was alive. So the outcome of the court case that my colleague Kenny Mapanga was covering was certainly a blow to them. They would have hoped to continue with the funeral service and the burial, a private burial that was scheduled for today. But of course, that did not go their way. But they do say now, ventilating this in court at a later stage would give them an opportunity to raise more issues about what they say is the manner in which the late former president was treated.
And I suppose they're looking for a moment to then be able to air the grievances that we even heard a snippet of today. Kenny, let's speak about the reasons that the court reached this particular conclusion, because while the developments were taking place in Johannesburg earlier, there was also a monitoring of what was taking place in the courtroom.
Indeed, Bongiwe, it's important to note that the outcome you saw today following the interim interdict application was by agreement by both parties. That means that instructions were given for both parties to give undertakings and make whatever concessions they needed to make to meet each other in the middle and find some form of an agreement, which was made into a draft order that later became the order of the courts. They had the opportunity to argue the matter should they choose to do so. Parties chose to go into this agreement with one another pending the main adjudication of the matter, which really is the heart of the issue, where you're going to delve into the substantive issues being raised by the Zambian government, which is that this is a public interest matter and it involves the Republic of Zambia and the best interests of the Zambian nation. They brought this application in terms of Article 177 of Zambia's constitution, which empowers the Attorney General to always act in the best interests of the Republic of Zambia. And it is their contention that it is not the best interest of the Republic of Zambia and the Zambian nation for its former head of state to be laid to rest in South Africa and not in his homeland. Now, there is an opportunity in this over a month window for parties to find some form of a resolution outside of the court. Failure to do so means that you will have a situation where the former head of state will be laying in that morgue for over a month as they await that main court hearing on the 4th of August for them to finally adjudicate this matter.
And I'm going to get to that in just a moment. And the second part, which takes us back in time, Sophie, around the late former President Kenneth Kaunda. But I want to stay with what we're seeing unfold here. You look at former President Edgar Lungu and his successor. We saw tensions play out in life. Now, even beyond the grave, tensions are playing out.
Well, I think there's Zambians in the region. Zambia is quite an important country that led and supported many countries to be free. And they have been a good example of Africa in terms of many issues, with their founding father, Kenneth Kaunda, leading the way in an exemplary manner. Now, this problem of a former leader and a sitting president fighting, it's not new. The founding father, that country, arrested its own founding father, KK, you'd recall. And other leaders in the region had to intervene. He even had to come to South Africa. Then the South African government under Mbeki gave him a house to write his book and tried to support him emotionally. Some of the children were accommodated in Namibia. You come to Chiluba, the same person who persecuted KK, he also went through troubles. Now, you had the opposition leader, Hakainde Hichilema, being arrested most of the time when he was competing with Edgar Lungu. Today, you have Hakainde Hichilema, who is now the president, who's accused of also violating the rights of the former president. The only difference is that they haven't arrested the former sitting president, but the wife of the late former President Lungu is facing charges as we speak. She has to attend some court proceedings in Zambia. Therefore, this problem of tension in the leadership post and during your tenure becomes an issue, and it's something that I think Zambia, as a role model in the region, will have to deal with. I remember asking the former South African President Jacob Zuma in Zimbabwe when he went there during the official funeral of the former president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, that why on the continent there's always tension between a sitting president and a former president. So I think that whole problem is continuing. In Zimbabwe, the government under Mnangagwa agreed finally to what the family wanted. But even there was a long argument back and forth that Mugabe is the one who built the Heroes Acre. He has buried many people there. He must also go there. While the family was saying, no, he must go to his farm. That's what he said. So I think it is a problem. In South Africa, it's quite different. Madiba made it clear to everybody that he wants to be buried in Klunu. the South African government, even before Madiba passed on the M plan, they planned around burying Madiba in Kunu according to his wish. So I think other countries can learn from South Africa that much as a person is a former head of state or a head of state, you also have to respect what the family is saying. So I think at this moment, you need a country like South Africa that has done it before to ensure that there's no tension, to assist countries such as Zimbabwe, the chair of SADC, and of course other former heads of state in the region.
This is very sad indeed. Prayers go to the family and those that are mourning and grieving in this moment. May they be encouraged, uplifted, and comforted. And we hope that they will get justice for the ex-president. More stories and the news on this will still be forthcoming as the case is in court at the moment and the family has taken the government to court. Obviously, they have got evidence, and that was just a lawyer for the family that was speaking. And this goes to show how we as Africans need to do better. Differences in ideology and political beliefs should not come before human life. Human life is important and everyone deserves a chance to live. And for their contribution, everyone ought to be celebrated, acknowledged, and obviously respected. But such is not the case for the ex-president of Zambia. I want to hear your thoughts and comments. Let me know your views and take on this. Could the government of Zambia have done better? Is this hatred for a person, gone beyond to even wishing that the person would have been dead? Because that's exactly the case. But now in his death, everyone wants to come forth as a saint. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. On this platform, we are committed to sharing news that is not just only informative, but also educative and interactive. News that will shift your paradigm, engage your school of thought, and by so doing, we believe we learn of one another and we increase in knowledge. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please do so and kindly give this video a thumbs up. Thank you. Your comments in the comment section.